Good morning, everyone.
I'm surprised I would have.
You made it to the last class, 33. You should be commended for your persistence, your dedication, your hard work, your being here, all those good things, right?
Yep.
I know, I'm glad that you're here and you come to the final class. So, happy Friday. No more classes after this. Just the final exam on, when you said it was Tuesday, right? Tuesday morning? Right early? All right, so I have just a few things to, as you know, cover in the final exam review. So if you want to take that out, we'll see if we can get finished with it today. We should get finished with it today, I don't have any doubts. And, well, once we get finished with it, then I think we can go ahead and probably go, depending on what time it is. And I think everyone here is registered for Theory 4, which I looked at, and that's good. That's good, because I know there's some freshmen that are not registered for what they need to be registered for yet, and that's not the issue. And I think everyone in here is registered for oral skills 4 as well. It's kind of neat, the numbers, you know, are 12 in here, and then they're going to be 12 next semester. So that's kind of nice. Okay, so how about let's continue, again, I'm jumping around, but can we continue on the last page of the final exam review? I'll finish up reading those graphs and giving you the answers there. And then I think after that we just have one more page to do. We got a piece to look at, and then we got some short answer questions to deal with. And that should take care of it. So, I think I was on the last page, I was on example 3. We didn't get to that one yet, is that correct? All right, so, if you look at the graph there, you can see there are 4 phrases, small a, small b, small a, small b prime. There are 2 capital letters, capital A and A prime. And then there are some cadences. Even though there are no keys given, do we have enough to determine what kind of form this would be? Again, choosing from one phrase or term in each of the boxes above. In each of the boxes above. So let me give you a moment to look at that. Let me look at that. Okay. What do you think? Okay. Are you on exam 3? No. Oh, okay. I would actually accept 2 possible answers for this, depending on how you look at it. Well, what does, let's just look at the capital letters in bold. What is, we talked about this a little bit last class, what is A followed by A prime with capital letters? What kind of form is that?
Simple.
Good, simple binary, yeah. So that's getting you a start. I would say this could be analyzed as a simple binary, and looking at the cadence, aka the last chord in the first capital A section, would you say that this simple binary is sectional or continuous? Continuous, yeah. So one possible answer that is correct, for example 3, I would accept continuous simple binary. That would be just fine. Is there another way to look at these 4 phrases? Remember before we start, or as we were getting into this unit, we were reviewing the old stuff, the smaller forms. What was a form we learned a while back, and that we also reviewed this semester, that typically contains 4 phrases?
A double period.
Okay, a double period. I like that. Now, I would accept that that is a double period, right? Because the cadence at the end of phrase 2 is weaker than the cadence at the end of the last phrase. We have half cadence in the middle, we have PAC at the very end. So you could call this for phrase structure a double period. And if you called it a double period, what term would you use in the left box to describe it? Right? We don't call periods or double periods sectional or continuous. We could call it parallel complete double period. That's right. So for this form, depending on how you want to look at it, I would accept parallel complete double period or continuous simple line. Continuous simple line. All right, and then the table at the bottom. That's pretty straightforward, pretty simple. Name the form of the A sections in each of the graphs above, and if the A section is not a period, just tell me it's not a period. So graph number 1. Is the capital A section, is that a period? Yes, it is. Now, this time you got to think of the terms not necessarily from those boxes. What kind of period is the first two phrases in example 1?
Progressive complete period?
Okay, close. Progressive, I would say, is correct. Complete is the opposite of progressive, so.
So contrasting, or no, I'm getting terms mixed up, I think.
Yeah, you're almost there. I would say it's progressive because the period, those two phrases modulate. But what's the other term that describes the small a and the small a prime?
Parallel.
Okay, parallel, yeah. So the two phrases in example 1 that are shown there, that they form a parallel progressive period. Parallel progressive period. I understand it's hard to keep the terms separate because a lot of them start with the same letter or they sound similar, or you think they measure the same things, but they're all a little bit different. Is there any, maybe I should, no, I already made up the test. I could have done like a matching definition, like what does this one refer to? What does this term refer to? Okay, example 2. What is the form of the capital A section, the first two phrases? We can put that together.
Contrasting progressive.
That's right. Contrasting progressive what?
Period.
Period. That's right. You see how he gets that? Contrasting progressive period. Those are the first two phrases of example 2. And then finally, what's the form of the first two phrases of example 3? Not a period. Thank you. Because the cadences are both half cadence in that case, so it's not a period at all. Not a period at all. I can't remember if I told you again. I always do this. Years ago, I used to give this page as a quiz. I don't know if I told you that. How would you have done if this were a quiz? Pretty cool. Now some of you are thinking I would have puked on the spot. No, I'm just kidding. I had this freshman this semester, and I didn't even get to know him that much. He was always missing class, and every time he missed class, he would send me an email, and he said he was puking. So I just had the feeling like he was puking all the time. I felt kind of bad for him because that's kind of a miserable existence if that's all you do. I mean, he could be puking right now. It was just constant. Every time he sent me an email, it was like, I'm going to be gone because of blah, so. Anyways, those are the good old days, right? No, I'm just kidding. All right, turn if you would to the page in your review that has the Schumann album leaf example, at least the graph, place for your graph at the top, and then the short answers for the terms and concepts. The music for the Schumann album leaf example, as you can see there, it's in your textbook on page 355. Now, I brought mine, and I can show you my score up above, But unfortunately, in this room, I cannot show the score and play the sound at the same time. Okay? And I do want you to be able to hear it. So if you do have your book with you, I would advise that you take it out and open up to page 355 so you can follow along with the score. And then after we listen to it, I'll see if I can get the, in fact, I could probably turn the TV on. I'll see if I can get the document camera to work so I can display the actual music and we can graph it. So let's listen to it first. This is coming from YouTube. And I gotta do a quick sound check.
Breaking all the rules, anything we choose. Never mind, different proof. I got something new.
Here we go. It's a slow piece, obviously. All right, so let me see if I can get this on the screen now. You can start graphing it, unless you've graphed it already, which would be pretty sweet. No signal. Oh, I know why. I think I know why. Let me turn this on and see if we get something. That's about as good as I'm going to get it. All right. Now, in terms of graphing this piece, there are some actual comments in your textbook. There are some instructions on the previous page where we find the score. And the instructions for this piece tell you to assume 4-bar phrases throughout, except for an 8-bar phrase right in the middle. Then 9 through 16, I think. How does the author phrase that? Let's see. It says, assume all phrases are 4 measures in length, except for an 8-measure phrase in measures 9 through 16. So we would be silly probably not to heed that advice, to heed that instruction. So let's go ahead and graph the phrases accordingly. If there are 4-bar phrases, except for the one in the middle, the graph is going to begin looking like this. I would get a total of 5 phrases. Which this one kind of have a little groovy over there. Now, the beginning measure numbers of each of these phrases is going to be 1, 5, 9, but not 13, because this is an 8-measure phrase in the middle, so I'm going to have measure 17 and measure 21 there. I know it's probably very hard for you to see among all my scribbles. I did some chordal analysis throughout most of the piece, not the whole piece. But the beginning key of this tune is F sharp minor. F sharp minor. And the first cadence is in that key, as we might expect. turns out to be an IAC in F sharp minor. That's in measure 4. Then, again, I don't know if you can see from where you are, but in measure 6, there is a modulation to the relative major key. The key with the same key signature as F sharp minor, and that is A major. There's a little pivot chord there in measure 6 that I found. And so the cadence at the end of measure 8, or in measure 8, actually is a PAC, but it's in the key of A major, the relative major key. And I guess the book uses these double lines here, so I can too, but I don't see any official repeats. Okay, moving on with more cadences. We were told that measure 9 to 16 is one ginormous 8-bar phrase. The phrase starts in A major, but around measure 14 you can see I have found a pivot chord to a closely related key. And this key cadence is in measure 16 is C sharp minor. C sharp minor. So I have a PAC for the cadence at the end of the long phrase in C sharp minor. In fact, hopefully a lot of you can see that C sharp minor chord right there. Then going to the last system, we have two 4-bar phrases again. This phrase just starts in A major and it cadences back in A major. So I had a PAC in A. And finally, the last phrase is in F sharp minor, and we have a PAC in F sharp minor to end the piece. So at least Schumann has the courtesy to end the piece in the same key that he starts in, even though he goes to these other keys in the middle. I have to come up with some lowercase labels for all my phrases. Okay, so the melody in the phrase 1, it's in the top voice. I can't sing that high, so I'll lower it several octaves. It's sol, 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 fa, me, re, me. Then the next phrase's melody is sol, 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 fa, me, re, and then it's modulating ti, do. So what might you label the second phrase? A prime, yeah. Let's skip the middle phrase for a second. Go down to measure 17. Here's the melody in the highest voice. We're in A major. Mi, 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 re, do, ti, do, do. And then we're back in F sharp minor. Sol, 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 fa, me, re, do, do. What would you like to call this? Yeah. A double prime, and then this phrase could be referred to as a triple prime. That phrase is a triple prime. Okay, now the melody in this is different. It's different than the beginning. Even though it might have parts of it, like fragments or motives of it, it might be related to the beginning, but it is different. So because we expect the contrasting section here, we really need to label it lowercase b. We need to label it lowercase b. This is, where are we right here? Mi, re, mi, sol, mi, mi, re, mi, ti, mi, mi, and then it starts to modulate going into C sharp minor. So, let's talk about overall capital letters. This is definitely going to be A. So is this one of these capital A, B, A ones? In other words, where you have material, then you have different material or digression, and then you have a restatement. It is. It's not just plain A, B, capital A, B. We got this, and we got this. And by the way, what should I call this? Capital A what? prime, right? Because these two are not exactly like these two. So now, obviously, we're going to have a B section in the middle, and I'm going to just connect this for now, although I don't know yet whether or not this piece is ternary or rounded binary. What section, where do I go to look for it? Do I go to South Africa and see if this is a ternary? Or what? No. No, I go to the B section. Yeah, don't go that far. Save yourself some money on a plane ticket. Just go to the B section. All right, what are the three terms or the three criteria we look for? Okay, length. Good, motivic autonomy. And the last one is, good, harmonic independence. Close it out. Now, let's talk about the length. How many measures long did we say this middle phrase is? 8. How long is all of the first big A section? 8 measures. So that shows a check for what? Rounded binary or ternary? Ternary, right? When the B section is just as big or bigger than the A section that comes before it, that's a check for ternary. It makes the B section big, bold, and substantial. And anything that's big, bold, and substantial hints at ternary. Anything weak and puny hints at rounded binary. Okay, so we got, I'll put my ternary thing over here. And here's my rounded binary, I'll just abbreviate RB over there. Okay, motivic autonomy. Well, do you see any resemblance of this kind of idea somewhere in the beginning, somewhere in the first 8 measures? I do. In fact, take a look in the first measure, take a look in the alto and the tenor voices. You see that motive, that idea there? Bum, bum, bum. And then also in this measure, measure 5, in the inner voices, dum, dum, da, dum. And now he brings it out to an outer voice and on all the voices. Ya, da, da, da. So I think there is some kind of connection. I think the music of this B section is dependent upon music that came before for its motivic content. You see where I get to see the relationship? So I'm going to say motivic autonomy-wise, I'm going to say that's a check for rounded binary. Because the music here is not completely different. I can see there are motives, fragments that are related to what came before in the capital A section. So then that means harmonic independence is going to solve the issue. It's going to break the tie. It's either going to be rounded binary or ternary based on what we decide here. Take a look at the B section again. You can look at the music there, you can look at the keys here. It starts in A major, concludes in the key of C sharp minor, and what kind of cadence do we have? A strong PAC in a different key than the home key. What are you thinking? Harmonically speaking, rounded binary or ternary? Ternary, yes. We've got a lot of harmonic key contrast. In fact, this little 8-bar phrase, it could stand on its own because it does end with a strong cadence, a conclusive cadence, and it's in a different key than the home key of the piece. So, it looks like from all this work, from all my deduction and investigation, I'm going to say that this little Schumann piece is an example of a ternary form. Right, because I have 2 checks for ternary. Now I just have to, again, decide whether it is sectional or continuous. Now, what would you say based on the final chord here? It's continuous. See the last chord in bar 8 at the end of the A section? That's a tonic chord, but it's not a tonic chord in F sharp minor. It's a tonic chord in A major. So we'll say that the whole form is continuous, ternary. And I think on your review, there's one more question I have. Oh, wait, by the way, I want to adjust this. Not that it's a big deal and I don't take points off for this, but now since I'm saying this is ternary, 3 individual distinct parts, I don't want to have my second half look like this. I'd actually prefer to have it look like this. An A, a B, and an A prime. Ternary. Yeah, sorry, I should make that clear. Again, I don't take points off whether or not you graph it all the way across as one section or, yeah, so don't worry much about that. And then the final thing that is asked for here, identify the form of the A section. Just looking at the graph, is it a period? Yeah, it is. Weaker cadence, stronger cadence. I don't have any room to place this. I'll put it over here. So we know the A section's a period. What kind of period is it? Parallel. And then, what's the other P word? Progressive, yes. Sorry, if you were saying that, I just didn't hear it behind the mask. Parallel progressive period. And that concludes our analysis of the form of this.
On the test, if there is like an unknown like form of that, with like the phrase get a little longer, will it like tell us, or that's something we have to figure out?
Yeah, I don't think I specified in any of the pieces on the test. What I would probably do is from what I can think, I would probably just assume 4-bar phrases, throughout. Unless there's something that really tells you that, oh, you don't hear it as that, or I can't find a cadence, and so maybe this is a longer 8-bar phrase. Yeah, yeah. And I mean, when I grade like things like this final exam, I know that sometimes there are multiple ways to hear something. So, sometimes, like if you hear this as one 8-bar phrase, sometimes I'm open to that interpretation and I accommodate for that in the grading. But, well, in this case, the instructions were pretty explicit. So 4-bar phrases except for the middle one. So yeah, that's a good question. You will be able to hear these, by the way, so you want to be listening closely. And I think if you just remember in your mind, just start looking for 4-bar phrases, and if that doesn't work, then 8-bar phrases. I think you'll be fine. By the way, under no circumstances should you be analyzing like 2-measure phrases. 2 measures is not enough to constitute a phrase. Okay. So, and by the way, if you did 2-measure phrases, you'd have like 27 phrases in your graph. That's a little too much. I don't want you to do that. Good. Other questions? Okay, then we just have to conclude by going over the terms and concepts, the short answers that you have. A couple of these are quick and easy. A couple of these require a little more explanation. Just like well, even years ago, and they were old reruns. I don't know if you've ever seen reruns of I Love Lucy. But she would always say that her husband Ricky had some spleen to do. And so that's what we have to do for some of these questions. The first 2 are pretty quick. For instance, number 1, what 2 terms describe the melodic attributes of a period? Careful. Yeah, we're just talking about a little period at this point.
Oh.
So like if you have A, small a, or small a, small b. So parallel or contrasted, yeah. So for the answer to number 1, the 2 terms we're looking for here are either parallel or contrasting. We're just doing really small form at this point. And then number 2, what 2 terms describe the harmonic attributes of a little period, not a huge form?
Complete and progressive.
Yeah, complete and progressive, that's right. Complete if the period does not modulate, progressive if the period does change key, like this one did. Okay? Oh boy, this one's a little more involved. What is a double period? Who can tell me how many phrases do we typically have in a double period? Okay, 4, I would mention that in your in your description or definition of a double period. And what has to be true about two particular cadences in the double period? Yeah, the cadence at the end of phrase 2 must be weaker than the final cadence, the cadence at the end of phrase 4. Okay? I'd say if you get that kind of information down, that's sufficient. To me, that's sufficient to describe and showing that you know what a double period is. Okay, now number 4 comes on the heels of number 3. What is the difference then? Oh no, I'm sorry. Can we skip to number 5? I should have put these in a different order. Number 5 asks, how does a repeated period differ from a parallel complete double period?
Because the cadences are the same thing.
Yeah, it's definitely the answer is because the cadences will be different. Holy cow, what happened here? Oh man, somebody really goofed out. Okay, so a double period is going to have a weaker cadence in the end, so like an HC or IAC here. A repeated period, the cadences are going to be identical at these two junctures. So this is going to be the cadential construction of a repeated period. Here you have a period and it's repeated. But if you have this cadential structure, then you have one big 4-phrase double period. Double period. So again, the answers are found in the cadences in terms of distinguishing between one type versus another. I think the last trickier one is maybe number 4. What is the difference between a repeated phrase and a parallel complete period? This is very similar to the other custom, except now we have less phrases to deal with. Let's say we have this. What would the cadences of a complete period be? If these two phrases formed a complete period, what would you say maybe could be a cadence at the end of the first phrase?
HC.
HC, okay. And then the cadence here could be a PAC. Good. That would be a parallel complete period, especially if the keys are the same. Let's say everything is in the key of C major. What would I have to change to make this a repeated phrase? Can you say that one more time?
I said change the PVC to the HC.
Okay, you can do that. The only other way we could do it is we could have left this as a PAC and made this a PAC. Yep. As long as the cadences are the same, then we've got, this is a repetition of this. Basically, it's a varied or modified repetition, but close enough. The cadences tell us. Yeah. Okay, we're just about there. Number 6. We've gone over this 100 times now, right? I hope you know those 3 terms because that will be asked you on the exam. This is the answer to number 6. Length, motivic autonomy, and harmonic independence, not independence. I'm just giving you a hard time. Okay, number 7 should be quick and easy. What is the term for a form that contains a smaller form nested or embedded in at least one or more of its sections? Good, composite, that's the magic word. I know it's another C term, but when we talk about composite ternier, for instance, Mozart's third movement of his Eine kleine Nachtmusik, the minuet, the trio, and then the repeat of the minuet. The minuets and the trios, those are all smaller forms like rounded binaries or what have you. And then you put all that together and you get this massive overall, what we call composite ternier. So composite is the term I'm looking for there. Okay, 8. if the opening A section of a binary or turning form is a progressive period, which this is, why is the big form, the binary ternary form, automatically continuous? Which we found it was.
Because the A section doesn't end in the beginning key.
Good, because the A section will not end in the home key. Yeah, very good, that's right. Because if it's a progressive period, we've changed key, therefore it won't end in the home key. And if it doesn't end in the home key, we can't have a tonic chord in the home key, which would make it sectional. So number 9 is really basically the same thing. If the opening A section is a complete period, that is, if this ended in the key of F sharp, why then is the overall form going to be sectional? And it's basically based on the same thing you said.
Because it's on the tonic.
In the whole key, that's right, you're guaranteed to do that. If the opening period is complete, that means it won't change key. And so you're guaranteed to be in the key you need, and for a period to exist, you have to have an authentic cadence here of some kind, a stronger cadence than this one, so you're guaranteed a tonic chord in the whole key. Okay. Hopefully that makes a little sense. Now let me go back to what I had. Okay, is there anything that I missed on this review? Are there any questions that you have? Again, this is not going to be a long test because it's just for the final unit of this class, and we have a shortened semester and stuff, so it's not going to be your typical like hour and a half long final or anything like that. For those of you that are going to be here, and by the way, please try not to get COVID or be around someone between now and Tuesday so that you can be here. I will play the pieces for you here. Anyone that needs to be taking it away from here, I'm going to have to put the sound files and everything that you need on Canvas. Will you have access to Canvas?
We'll find out when we get there.
Okay, well, you'll need to have access to Canvas in order to listen to the pieces.
Okay.
And I should probably, I'll respond to the email accordingly.
Okay.
Okay, I think that concludes what we need to do then. Thanks, guys. See you next week.
I'm almost done for the day.